Hello, guys, gals, and non-binary pals. Today we're going to be talking about barbershop harmony, otherwise known as barbershop quartet singing. And I don't recall whether I did. Okay, sorry. Wanted to make sure it wasn't going every 3 seconds. So throughout this presentation, I'm going to be using a number system to denote note scale degrees. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And half steps will be 1, 2, 3, flat 3. So barbershop is basically homorhythmic 4-part harmony, which means 4 people are singing. It's usually a cappella, where bass, baritone, lead, tenor are singing. Lead is singing the melody. We could have had it all. And homorhythmic means they sing things at the same time. So basic barbershop theory is the dominant 7th chord is the most prevalent chord, which contains a 1, 3, 5, flat 7, all being sung together, and they pull from one chord to the next until they reach a major 1, 3, 5, 1. In the late 19th century, the barbershop originated in the Black community. While people were waiting to get their hair cut, they would just start singing in the barbershop lobby and harmonizing. And it got really popular and then started to get less popular around the 1930s. So in 1938, this guy named O.C. Cash thought barbershop was really exciting. So he founded the Society for the Preservation and Encouragement of Barbershop Quartet Singing in America. We as a society decided that was a dumb name and changed it to Barbershop Harmony Society in 2004. Every year, the BHS holds an international quartet singing competition. It's also a chorus competition, but I'm talking about the quartet competition right now, where quartets from all around the world compete to be scored out of 100 by a panel of 12 judges to see who is the best quartet in the world. Here's our first chant. And here's a more modern champion of the international competition.
They got way too much to know, so have a cappuccino, have a cup of joe. Get your coffee in Brazil, your coffee in Brazil.
Different stylistically, but the core style is the same. So the reason we sing barbershop is because overtones are awesome. So overtones feed into the idea of lock and ring, which is the hallmark of the barbershop style. So lock refers to the tuning of barbershop chords. Equal temperament tuning is where A440 is the reference point and every note is the same distance away from each other. In just intonation, each note is tuned to the tonic of the chord. So in any sinusoidal wave, which means a wave that goes like this, which creates a tone like doo, it creates a series of tones above it that are whole number ratios of that first tone. So I'm going to show some examples of overtones, and what you're listening for is like ba. You're looking for that sound whistling above the tones you hear.
Did you hear it?
Next, we'll be looking at 4-part chord generating an overtone. And nobody was singing that top note. Barbershop, besides the competitions and singing songs, we also sing something called tags. Tags are sung at afterglows, which is like the after party after competitions and performances and all that good stuff. And a tag is a short little bit of music with fun chords, usually the end of a song, that one person can learn all 4 parts to and then teach to 3 other people so that they can sing with anybody that they meet. You can find most tags on those websites listed. I'm what's called a tag master. Jamie Bedford is also a tag master. He was like my tag idol back when I was a kid. And we learn a ton of tags so we can sing with anybody of any skill level and of any voice part. Here's one of my favorites. Thank you very much for listening, and hope you enjoyed the show.
Wow.
That was a wave of information, a wave of noise. And can I be the first to compliment you on your use of technology of having each of those queued up to the exact right segment, and it worked? I'm very impressed. That was ambitious.
Thank you. Yeah, you can't talk about barbershop without examples, you know.
No, you can't at all. So that was fantastic. Questions, comments, feedback. Don't start singing. We can do the singing later. Sarah's rocking out. I don't think she has a question. She's just rocking out. Renata has a
I have a
question.
comment.
Go ahead, Victoria.
So I feel so validated that barbershop comes from barbershops, because the first time I heard Jamie and Renata talk about it, I was so thoroughly confused because they were going to a barbershop competition and I thought Jamie was a hairdresser on his weekends. And I didn't say anything because it was embarrassing. And I'm so glad that actually there's a connection. That was it. Thank you so much. You've removed 4 years of, held in anxiety.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting because like singing, and the reason that I say it comes from the Black community is because it's been historically documented, and we as a community, like a barbershop community, say that it's important to recognize that they originated it and that we kind of appropriated it as a, like, barbershop didn't let Black people join the society until I think like the 80s or so. So that's why I say it that way. And yeah, it was really interesting that like they would sing in downtime, and one of the biggest places they had downtime in the late 1800s was when they're waiting to get their haircut, because there's only like one barber per city or per town, you know.
My question maybe is you didn't talk about it directly in here, but I think you know. So
Okay. Sure.
Why are men's and women's barbershop societies separated? Like, I know that they talk about the quality, or not the quality, but like the stuff that's physically happening in your voice, physics wise.
Yeah, they're wrong, but continue.
Okay. So can you talk a bit about that?
Okay, do you want me to talk about the politics behind why they're separate organizations, or do you want me to talk about the physics that proves them wrong?
The physics that proves them wrong.
Okay, so so the reason that a lot of people think that men's and women's barbershop sounds, or the reason they think that like men's barbershop sounds more full than women's barbershop, is because of a fundamental misunderstanding of the overtone series. So an overtone on any, like a basic sine wave, you'll go 1, that's your tonic fundamental tone. It generates a 1, 5, 1, 3, 5, 6, 7. So that series is generated on every tone as a ratio. So that's our first overtone series, and this is our second overtone series. So this one generates a 1, 1, 5, 1, 3, etc. And so when you overlap them, you get overtones that like line up with each other and become louder. That's why you could hear those octaves in the presentation. With higher voices, people say they get above human hearing, but like all of the highest chords I've heard barbershop women sing their overtone series don't get into the noise range of human hearing. So that's kind of bullshit. It's just like the octave occurs higher in their voice in like the physical place, like the octave overtone occurs higher because they're singing a higher note. And so a lot of people who listen to barbershop listen for a specific range of tones. And with higher chords, that range of tones shifts. And if the listener's ear doesn't shift with them, the listener doesn't hear what they're looking for good barbershop. And that's why a lot of older male barbershoppers who have it really ingrained what good barbershop sounds like don't hear that, because their ear is still stuck in this zone where the octave of female voice skips over it.
So connected to Sarah's presentation, confirmation bias is affecting how we hear sound.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you.
No problem.
Or one more question or
Okay.
presentation. Sarah's going what? Which means she has a question.
My question is, could this be related to when I was in college, the director of the women's course I was in said that there's also a bias against just regular women's singing groups outside of the barbershop world. Is there some sort of connection?
So the overtone thing is primarily a barbershop bias, because barbershop guys they're kind of like, they'll go find a science thing that confirms what they say and then pretend it's the truth. Because a lot of like the main demographic of barbershop males are like middle class white 50 to 60-year-old men who are not terribly well known for being like for changing their minds easily as a demographic. Whereas the bias against women singing groups in general, to my understanding, is the same general idea as like the pushback against safe spaces, or like places where quote unquote minorities take for themselves, because kind of like the equality feels like exclusion to someone who has privilege, kind of deal, where if women can't have something for them, or rather if women have something that's just for them, like a women's group that's all singing, then, you know, men in power tend to feel threatened, is my understanding. It could also just be like they don't have like the bass, like their basses don't sing in the bass range that people are used to listening for, which, you know, again, their hearing segment isn't finding what they usually look for a good sound.
Chaz, I have the impression that you could probably go on about this for much, much longer.
Yeah.
We'd love to let you do that, but we are out of time for questions for now. So everyone
Okay.
give Chaz a big round of applause.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. That was amazing.